Welcome to The Trader, a Traitors podcast. I'm Matthew, a writer working in unscripted TV development, and this podcast is dedicated mainly to the hit TV phenomenon, The Traitors. Although occasionally, in between seasons, we look at other strategy competition shows like Genius Game and Million Dollar Secret. Most recently, we even explored The Traitors India. This season of the podcast is dedicated, though, to the Traitors Ireland. And joining me today for the third time this season to dive into episode 9 of the show, it's a reality TV guru, David Bloomberg. David, welcome back to the podcast. How have you been since episode 6?
Good, good. It seems like it's only been relatively few days, unlike the full week last time.
It
So,
does. Yes, yes. And I'm gonna ask you for your thoughts on the last two episodes. First of all, in case anyone is joining us randomly in the middle of the season, tell us more about you. Who are you and what do you do?
I mean, they might have found you in the middle. That you're getting more popular. I,
Sure.
I, I actually, when I was on here the first time, I said I've seen no discussion at all,
Yeah.
and that's still true. But I follow a account on Blue Sky that
Mhm.
tracks trends. And every half
Ooh.
hour, it tells you what the most popular hashtag is. And in the middle of the night, my time, Traitors IRL is frequently in there now.
Hey.
And so the thing is, I can never click on it because I'm behind and I don't want to click on it and get spoiled. And then
Yes.
by the time I catch up, it's not one of the trending hashtags anymore. But there are people on Blue Sky, which means probably elsewhere, who are talking about this.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
absolutely. My Instagram is ablaze with there's a couple of people have
yeah.
made new accounts just dedicated to the Traitors Ireland. So
Hmm.
I'm seeing lots of memes and little videos and all sorts of things about the show. But like you, I'm being very careful about avoiding spoilers, which I've managed
Yes.
to do a bit better with the last few episodes
Well, that's
than
good.
I was with episodes 4, 5, and 6 when I had constant spoilers. So
Yes.
this I've been enjoying watching like 7, 8, 9. I think have been spoiler free for me, so that's so much more fun to watch.
Yes, yes. So after that tangent, I'll finally answer your question. For those of you who may not know me, I've been covering reality TV for over 25 years, online in newspaper columns, on my own reality TV websites, and of course for 10 years in podcasts as of a couple weeks from now. In addition, I post reality TV videos on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram as at David Bloomberg TV. And as I mentioned about Blue Sky, I talk quite a bit about the topic there as well.
Yes. And before we go any further ahead, I'm gonna do this in the right order. We have an email from someone about your last appearance on the
Yeah.
podcast, and it made me laugh. And you've already seen this, but
Yes.
I wanted to read it out. This is an email from Jeff, and Jeff is in Texas. Jeff emailed saying, David Bloomberg, I just listened to your latest appearance on the episode 6 podcast. I can't believe you didn't mention the egregious math error from episode 5. So that was the episode where they had the mission on the river and they had to solve arithmetic clues and then put it all together to get a code. Jeff does say, I can understand that Matthew missed it. Thanks, Jeff. But I thought you, a fellow engineer, would have been screaming over it as I did. One of the math equations they had to solve to open the combination lock was 8 divided by 0. They
Hmm.
wondered if the answer was 0 before they settled on the, in speech marks, right answer of 8, and that opened the lock. But you and I know that 8 divided by 0 is a nonsense equation. The answer is infinity, or error, or NEN, not a number. In any case, it's not 8 or
Yes.
0. I really expected you to catch this and rail against it like I did. How did the producers allow such a blatant error? Uh, but then says, I love your shows on the Rob Has a Podcast network, but it's always a special treat to hear you on the Tradar podcast. Keep up the good work. David,
Well,
did you
thank
notice
you.
this? This
I
wild
did.
error of.
I did notice it. I was like, 8 divided by 0. That can't be. But the thing is, I'm gonna confess a little bit here. I watch the missions on 2x speed because they're usually just not that interesting. And I thought they must have just made a mistake because I was like, there's no way production is so dumb that they put a division by zero error. Because, yes, the answer is, in fact, infinity.
Yeah.
Now, this is funny because when I was in college, I was in a differential equations class. And I remember that there was a quiz question, and I got the answer of infinity and I
Yes.
handed it in. And there was a smart ass teaching assistant who did the grading. And when I got it back, they said, close, turn it sideways, because the real answer was eight. So
But were you right?
oh no,
Or
I
were
was
you
wrong.
wrong?
I was
Okay,
wrong.
you were wrong.
I was wrong. But a differential equations class was the class where I almost broke my hand punching a sign on the way home from the final exam because we were told that it was not going to be curved. And then I showed up, a couple days later, however long it was. This was, pre everything on the computer. Showed up at the professor's office to find the grades and found out I'd gotten an A. And I was like, how is that possible? So he lied. He did curve it. Or else he didn't lie and he saw our grades and went, oh my God, I'd better curve this. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, that is a long tangent, just because it's funny, the eight and infinity thing coming together again. But yes, I did notice, I just kind of blew it off because I thought there's no way they made a mistake that stupid. And I was not focusing on the actual math. There was the only part of the math that I heard or
Okay.
paid any attention to, and it just, blew by me, other than Will talking about trying to explain that someone had the numbers that they didn't have
Yeah.
and couldn't have had.
Yeah.
So,
I absolutely noticed the mistake as well. I just didn't want to mention it on the podcast
mhm.
because I actually thought David it might go over your head, so I just didn't say
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. You
Uh,
didn't want to show up the engineer. I know.
yes. Maybe what they meant they ought to have put 8 divided by 1, but
Yes, that's the
someone
only.
messed it up somewhere.
Yeah. Well, and I do wonder, and I didn't pay enough attention to notice. I wonder, did they arrive at the zero? Like, was it a multi-part? I thought that was multi-part equations.
Yeah, maybe
So maybe when they arrived at the zero, it should have been a one. So they kind of accidentally got the right answer, and it
perhaps could
wasn't
be.
production that screwed up. I don't
Maybe.
know.
Maybe. We'll never know.
Yeah.
Uh, before we move on to episode 9 as well, David, what did you think of 7 and 8? Anything that you are desperate to get off of your chest that you feel we have to talk about?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you've already discussed this, but, like for episode 7, I did like Ben and Nick getting the full repercussions from other players in terms of being yelled at and told off. I
Yes.
mean, doesn't end up doing anything, but still, it was good to see. I also see this was the most interesting thing to me was at the round table when there was a tie.
Yes.
Siobhan said after the tie, we will keep voting until there is no tie. So there's no
Yeah.
tiebreaker in the Traitors Ireland. We still don't know what the tiebreaker is
Yeah.
in other seasons, but at least in Traitors Ireland, we're going to keep you here, and Siobhan is going to keep yelling at you until you change your mind.
Yeah, that's definitely what she implied. I noticed that as well. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, luckily, I mean, I say luckily, on the next vote, a couple of them did change their
Well,
votes,
as
we
far as
can.
we know, that could have been
Well,
5 votes later for all we
this
know.
is true. This is true. Maybe they're keeping the truth from
Yeah.
us, and they just
Yeah.
cut straight to the moment when people finally changed. But
Yeah.
yes, I thought that was interesting. Yeah.
Because I thought it would be funny if one flipped one way and one flipped the other and it was a tie again, which we've seen in other shows.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, as far as the outcome there, I was so excited to see Potty and Andrew work together.
I know. I know.
Shortest team up ever
Yeah.
But I am glad Andrew didn't reveal he had been recruited because I always prefer they keep that part to themselves.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And we've seen that in other versions. Sometimes players hint that they haven't
Yeah,
been a traitor for very long.
right,
So yeah, he just said, "I'm a traitor." Off he went.
right. Um, and then in episode 8, we got an answer to another question that at least you and I have asked before. Can the traitors blackmail someone they already tried to recruit? Because I
Mm.
know this has happened before, and we've been like, well, I don't know, maybe once you try once, that's it. And the answer was yes,
Yeah.
as Dick discovered. We'll answer in a little while whether it was a good idea to do it, but at least we know you can. Um,
Yes.
and then the other thing, this is very important for people to know that I have been tracking this, which is what Siobhan does with the portraits. Because I had, just as a recap before, I had noticed that for the first one, she tossed it and then she gently placed everyone. And I said, well, maybe when they get down to one person that she really didn't like, she'll toss it. And I guess she didn't like Mark of all people because she tossed that one on the floor.
Yes, a lot of that I had similar thoughts of, but yeah, you caught some things there that I didn't really pick up on with Lindsay in episode 7, with the tie break and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's good to hear your thoughts. I reckon we are ready to go ahead and get into another very interesting episode. And yes, the question of whether or not the right choice was made at this recruitment will probably crop up throughout. So here we go, episode 9. We are reminded then that Poddy blackmailed Nick, sort of for the second time. The first time wasn't blackmail. And Patrick finally met banishment, breaking the Faithful's winning streak. Poddy and Nick were then given a task to murder in plain sight by hugging someone, and the episode ended with Nick hugging Christine. So we begin at breakfast.
So I'm gonna
Yeah,
jump in right away here. So
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, I'm like, well, that's not much of a cliffhanger if they show us her hugging Christine. So that
yeah.
must be a diversion. That must be like the second person or the third person he hugged, and that's how we go in here.
Yeah, I thought the same. Normally they keep us in a bit of suspense about
Mm-hmm.
who's been targeted and who's fallen prey to the traitors here. So I was also surprised by that. And then, of course, when Christine arrived at breakfast, I thought,
Right.
Wait a minute." And I had the same thought as you. I thought, oh, maybe they tricked us and he had hugged someone before her and it wasn't her at all. Or I even wondered if it didn't count because it was sort of a half hug from the side and maybe that wasn't a real. Or I thought, is it a slow release hug? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
And I guess it is. I guess it made sense in a way to keep if it is Christine who's been murdered,
Mm-hmm.
which we figure out soon, oh yeah, no, it was her, it was her. I guess it makes sense to keep her in the game because if that player does just disappear overnight, people have less to go on to try and figure out, well, what
Right.
happened. So at least if that person is there the next day, they've got the chance to talk about, well, someone did this, they gave me a drink,
Mm-hmm.
someone hugged me and it was weird. So maybe that's part of the reason why they keep them around so that they've got the chance to contribute to helping
Yeah.
the faithful figure things out.
I just think, I mean, it plays well into the mission also, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I think they like the slow acting thing.
Yes, yeah. So Nick arrives next, and my first reaction was, I wonder if he's confused about why Christine's still here,
Yeah.
or does he know that this was going to happen? They show us a little interview clip. He doesn't seem confused, so I think he and Poddy had it explained to them.
Hmm.
Whoever you choose will still be there tomorrow morning. Some players arrive, they discuss Faye as a suspect still, and she knows this. She knows people are talking about her, and therefore she knows she's probably safe from murder for the time being if she's high on people's lists for potential banishment. Amy is also putting Joanna's name out there, even seems to question Vanessa briefly, so lots of relatively new names coming to the fore right now. Poddy arrives and tells us in his interview that he doesn't even know who Nick murdered last night, which is great. And he says, "Well, hey, I guess I can really act like a faithful because I'm not gonna know who's dying today." Ben and Joe are then the last two. Well, they are the last two to arrive. They haven't appeared yet. So the other players assume, oh, one of them is going to be murdered.
Hmm.
We know as the viewer, of course, they're both going to reappear. And again, at this point, I was
Yeah,
still thinking maybe not. Maybe Nick did hug one of them first, and we're
right.
being tricked. Uh, but while they're waiting, Vanessa and Christine reveal actually they are quite suspicious of Nick. Maybe he was recruited. Maybe they're not buying that story he told everyone. And we get a clip of Nick in his confessional, and he reveals a couple of things. A, he might need to get rid of Poddy to make himself look faithful.
Hmm.
Because all along, Nick has had this theory that that Poddy's a traitor and Poddy is keeping him in the game because they get on quite well. B, he probably needs to think about murdering Ben at some point. He says, we're really close. He's my bestie here. He's gonna notice that I'm behaving differently. And also, I think some people think he and Ben are working together as
Yes.
traitors. So he's sort of trying to think ahead already, like maybe sooner rather than later, I'm gonna have to get Ben out of the picture. The door knocks. It's Ben. They all think Joe's gone until she appears a few minutes later. And they're thrown, and some of them assume there's been another recruitment. While all this chatter is going on, something happened that I didn't really think much of at the time, and now I realize, okay, maybe I see why that's been included in the edit. Christine and Nick are beside each other, they're having a
Hmm.
whisper, and Nick suggests maybe Poddy and Joe are the traitors. And Poddy sort of notices it and makes a joke like, hey, what are you two whispering about? At the time, I just thought it was funny. Now I'm thinking, okay.
Yeah.
Nick v Poddy is important. And it's important maybe that both of them was on to the other one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is, somewhere in this mix, Vanessa and Christine suggested that Nick could be a traitor, and his
Yeah.
reveal about turning down recruitment was BS. And all I could think of was, that's ridiculous. Who would ever say out loud that they were recruited and turned it down if they were really a traitor? And for anyone who hasn't seen season one of the US, that's a joke about
Yeah,
season one of the
yes.
US. But that guy was pretty dumb. Anyway, uh, yeah, but they also, I mean, they did note that the other traders they banished were outspoken and took the lead, just like Nick and Ben. And
Yeah.
it's a funny case of someone being partially right for the absolutely wrong reasons.
Yeah, it is a strange combination of events that's led to this. That he
Mhm.
really was telling the truth when he said
Right.
he rejected recruitment, but now actually is a traitor
Yeah.
because he sort of was forced into it. Which I think, jumping ahead, I think long term is gonna help Nick.
Oh, me
I
too.
think he's in a great position.
Yeah.
Siobhan arrives then. She's resplendent in a sort of half dress, half suit, black number.
I,
I feel like they stole this from Alan Cummings' wardrobe.
I mean, I when I saw it, I was like Siobhan in chiffon.
Shit, that's okay. That's the name of this episode,
Yeah.
Siobhan and Chiffon. Uh, she reveals that the traitors murdered in plain sight by placing something called a pashog. They use this phrase in the last episode as well. It's an
Mhm.
Irish curse. And this is this really funny moment in the episode because while she's explaining this, she has to tell them to be quiet. And then Vanessa must keep talking, and she really seems a bit annoyed with her. And she's like, Vanessa says something about, you're really annoying me. And Vanessa's like, sorry. So,
Because she keeps asking, like, because Siobhan says a pishog, and they're like, "What's a pishog?" Well, if you wait a second, I'll tell you. And well, then
yes.
why are they still here? Well, and this and that, and it's like, how about you just let me deliver my lines, okay?
Yeah. Absolutely. It must be a nice excuse for a host to, allow themselves to get annoyed and it's still
Yeah,
in character, so it's okay.
yeah,
So yes, the Pishog is a curse that incites a slow death. Ooh. So post-mission today, someone will die.
yeah,
Siobhan leaves and they go into overdrive.
yeah.
Who took yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I'm interrupting. Are you getting annoyed with me? I
If
do
you would
like
let me
that.
explain, David.
Yeah, I like that they've made these small changes to make it more Irish, like
Yeah.
having an ancient Irish curse do the work instead of a slow acting poison.
Yeah.
So I enjoy that, those little changes there. Also, something that I wanted to mention just before Siobhan and Chiffon came in. Um, Joanna said
Yes.
she's not in any alliances and is on her own, but she's purposely choosing to do that in order to catch more traitors. That's just poor
Yeah.
gameplay, Joanna. I mean, we've talked about alliances here before, and to say I'm purposely avoiding alliances, yeah, that's not good gameplay.
Yeah. I mean, even if she does happen to catch on to traitors, it doesn't really do anything if you've not got other people behind you
Mm-hmm.
to vote for them. And looking ahead, if you make it to the end, when it gets to that end game, it's all about who do you really trust? Who do
Right.
you really feel like you can put your faith in to win share that prize with you. So if you've not really been close to people and you've been, quite overtly kept yourself to yourself, you're probably not doing yourself any favors as the game gets further and further. So yeah, I thought the same that that was maybe a little foolish, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I get the draw to that. I understand the appeal of I just can't trust anyone, so I'm just going to do my own thing. But it is a team game for most of it.
Right.
It is that social game, so you will rely on other people helping you out. Uh, yes, Siobhan goes off, and the players are then, briefly we just see sort of, who touched what? Who did someone give me a drink? And they start asking all those
Yeah.
questions. Clearly suggests they've watched either the UK or the US
Mm.
traitors because they immediately have references that their minds are going to. That we see very briefly, like Christine suggests Faye and Joe gave her drinks, and Faye's wondering who gave her a bottle, and so on. We spread out around the castle then, and there's a moment in the kitchen with Ben, and he's with some of the others, and he sort of decides it happened in here last night. I don't know why he decides it happened in the kitchen last night. I don't know where that comes from.
I would say where else would you poison someone? But it was a Peugeot, not a poison. So
Exactly, yeah. And Nick. Nick throws himself into the acting by, and I worried that this was a bad move at first. Maybe it will be. He immediately, he's trying to play the faithful, so he's joining in with the guessing, and he's saying, "Well, I hugged. I think he says like Oyen, like I hugged you. Does that count? I like, did I? I'm wondering if I gave anyone a high five." And I thought, well, Nick, be careful. Don't give too much away. They don't know it's a hug,
I
so.
think, yeah, I think he was trying to. I mean, I believe in one season, they specifically said this person, did it by giving them a hug or something like that.
Mhm.
I swear I remember that. Maybe I'm misremembering, but um, so
There was
maybe he's
a there was a season where the traitors murdered like with a kiss, and I
mm,
think maybe the players then knew that piece of information, but
yeah.
maybe there
So
was another
maybe
one.
he's worried that information will come out. So he's trying to get ahead of it by
Yeah,
saying,
yeah,
well, I hugged lots of people, so it couldn't have been me.
yeah.
So
And we also don't know if we see that moment of him saying that maybe some of the others in that room had just said the same
right.
thing as well, so
Yeah.
it
Who
could be
did I
that too.
hug? Who did I shake
True,
hands with? Who did I?
true. Uh, After this conversation, though, it's Ben who seems to take the initial hit to me. Like Christine comes to
Oh,
him
yeah.
a little later, and she starts off sort of down here and ends up here. She says, she's become a bit suspicious of him. She noticed the way he was stroking his beard.
Oh, God.
And then just keeps going and gets and rants and rants, and she's got this list of things now that she thinks of it, and she goes back to episode one when Ben she says you're a military man and you didn't get into the water in that first mission. I sort of think, so what? Why does that
Yeah.
make you think he's a traitor? Big deal. And she claims that she was speaking to him in the car early on, and she deliberately tested him by using the word traitor instead of faithful to describe everyone, and he didn't correct her. And she's saying, last night or the
Which, by
night
the
that
way, is a
Nina was.
dangerous game. If you actually, if someone else
Well,
noticed
yeah,
that, they'd be like, Christine, we are not fellow traders. Why are you saying that?
exactly. He could have thrown it right back at her and say, actually,
Right.
I did notice it, and I thought it was weird that you said that word.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, she points at another couple of small things like the night Nina got banished, claimed you whispered to me in a very exaggerated way that you knew it wasn't her, and that was too obvious. And it's like she's been holding all these thoughts back, and now she's just suddenly going to let Ben have it in the kitchen. And it's not the end of it,
And
but
there,
for
I
now,
mean, you know that if you have a beard, you must
well,
stroke it evilly.
obviously,
If
of
you're,
course.
who was that? Wait, who was that? Was that UK? Wasn't it the guy with the beard? Um,
I, as YouTube commenters who
yes,
have corrected
the
me on
guy with
various
the.
things will notice, my memory of all these
I
seasons
know.
is appalling.
I don't know. He was like he wrote like spirit books or UFO books or something, and
This may be
he
Canada.
always Canada. Was it Canada?
I
Yes,
think it
it
could be
was Canada.
Canada.
You're right. And he was because we made jokes about him always stroking his beard like this. Yes.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
it's
uh
a tell, of course.
that's right. That's right.
Yes, it's very sort of like, I don't know, Scooby-Doo or something. Uh, in the kitchen, Joe talks to Poddy and tells him, and they've got this little sort of bonding moment. She says she knows that she's been treated a bit strangely today, and they both talk about feeling a bit isolated from others, and they talk about their lives back home. They both live quite a simple life, and it's quite a nice moment. I mean, I'm sure when she watches this back, she won't be feeling so nice about Poddy, but in the
Yeah.
moment,
I was waiting for this to turn into something, and it really didn't. I thought that it
yeah.
was going to lead to something, and no,
Yeah,
no,
I
it
wondered
didn't go
if
anywhere.
Poddy was gonna let his guard down and say something accidentally to give himself
Yeah.
away, or if the two of them were gonna team up later at round time. Yeah, but yeah, I guess it didn't really result in much.
Hmm.
Christine is then talking to Faye and gets really emotional, and she's telling Faye that she's saying, Faye, you're still a top suspect for people. And I think she says along with like Nick and Ben and Vanessa. And she's saying, "Oh, I just confronted Ben and I feel bad about it." And anyway, Ben comes in to check on her, things seem fine, but Christine's still suspicious. She's like, I mean, I guess that was nice of him, but also that would be a great traitor move because he's trying to keep me on his good side, so he just wanted to appear nice and come and see if I was all right. So she still doesn't trust him. Uh, it's funny because at this point in the episode, they're talking about Faye, they're talking about Nick, Ben, Vanessa. I made a note here going, wow, people have really moved on from Poddy. Like, this isn't, no one's still. At this point,
I
I didn't know what was to come.
Right, and I was thinking about that when we eventually get to the roundtable because last time I was on episode 6, we discussed that. Like, oh, okay, they've forgotten about Potty, and
Yeah.
nope.
But I do wonder, I guess this is sort of revealed. I do wonder if, I know we've talked about it a few times on the podcast, do they all kind of accept that Poddy probably is a traitor and they're doing what Nick and Ben wanted to do with Caitlyn. Are they just keeping him around because it's so obvious he's a traitor that they're not worrying about him right now? I don't know.
I don't think so. It's hard to say for sure. I don't
Yeah.
think so. I think that they did move on, but then,
Mm,
I mean, once we'll get there. I think Nick reminds them
yeah.
of some of the issues that they had, and I have other thoughts about
Yeah.
that as well, because
Okay.
just some of the things that he and especially his fellow traders did to begin with, um, they were dumb.
Yeah. And come back to haunt them.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Or come back to haunt him.
yes,
It's time to head towards the mission, and the mission that doesn't quite feel like a mission. We're in the
right.
cars. As soon as they exit the house, it sort of becomes obvious to me, oh, they're all dressed in black. Some of the guys are in suits, right? Okay, we're doing
Hmm.
a funeral scenario, which, if you've watched other versions of the show, will look quite familiar.
Well, did
Uh,
you also catch when she was just before the mission in episode 8, I believe?
okay.
She was on the phone because it was the phone mission.
Yeah, yeah.
And she was on the phone and she said, "Yes, and I'll need those three coffins delivered to the
Of
castle by
course.
tomorrow." And
Sure.
then hung up the phone. And so I knew back at episode 8 that this was coming.
I think that sort of passed me by, but
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes, it all makes sense now, of course. I should have been paying attention. You'd think I would notice things doing a podcast on the show, but sometimes things slip by.
Yeah.
In the
That's why
cars,
you have guest co-hosts.
exactly. This is it. This is it. Nick and Ben are together and they're talking about, how people are throwing accusations at them now. And Nick again uses this fake theory now that they're both still in the game because perhaps Poddy is keeping them here. He's been saying it from episode 1 or 2. And Nick also says, well, I'm going to vote for Poddy tonight at Roundtable. And at this point, I thought, well, that's quite risky to say this in the car right now, and it's risky to even do it. Firstly, I thought, well, he's just said it in front of Ben, and I think Wilkins in the front of the car. I thought if he changes his mind by the time he gets to the round table, Ben and Wilkin might be like, "Hey, you said today you were going to vote for Poddy," so he's setting himself up a little bit here.
I mean, you
And
really
if
only
he,
have to worry about Ben. Nobody listens to Wilkin, and
well,
I'm
that's
not sure
true.
Wilkin listens to Wilkin. So,
This is a good point. Uh, but also, yeah, if he's sort of committing himself now to vote for Poddy, does that mean he thinks he's got the numbers? Does he have support? And my impression at this point in the episode was, I don't think you've got enough support to make this successful. But again, I
right.
was making a judgment based on what I was being shown as a viewer. Maybe there
Hmm.
was a whole lot of other stuff going on. We've also got Poddy in his car. He's talking to Oyen and Vanessa. They're talking still about Faye and Christine being on their radar. Meanwhile, Christine says she is going to go for Ben. And of course, we know this doesn't really matter because she's not going to be at the round table.
Yeah.
But she's gunning for
Well,
him
at least we
anyway.
believe this at that point. We didn't know for sure still
That's
until
true.
I was still thinking it was that they were leading us astray all the way up until the official announcement.
Mm,
So
yeah, yeah. It's time for this funeral procession mission then. The players arrive and there is a group of mourners, and it's sort of like we've traveled back in time, the way they're dressed. It's quite creepy. Becomes even creepier when they all start wailing and crying. Siobhan explains again that by the end of the mission, one of them will have their fate revealed and will be murdered. So the what they're going to have to do is walk along a path with all the mourners, and they'll be faced with a series of clues or questions. The correct answers will reveal the players who have not been cursed. Those players are safe. They can go to the back of the procession. Vanessa has a shield, so she immediately knows that she's safe. I did this I did this at the end of the last episode. I again had completely forgotten that she had a shield,
yeah,
so I thought, oh yeah, okay. Uh, it just feels like such a long time ago that she won it in my mind, and because the last episode didn't really end with a murder, it's carried over all the way until now.
right.
So that reminded me. So they begin. I'll talk us briefly through the questions and the clues. First one, the player who's safe won a shield at the casino. It's Oyen. So I thought, okay, the questions are pretty easy. If they have memories, they'll figure it out. And on they go. The mourners are wailing. Clue two. Well, this clue is sung to them by some of the mourners,
Yeah.
which I don't think I've seen before. And the clue is the two who found the sun in the church are safe. They remember that was Nick and
You're not going to sing it
Wilkin.
to us?
I wasn't. I know. I should have sung it, but I don't know if I could do it justice. So you just have to imagine it. Uh, Clue three is on a headstone. The players who are safe were on the castle team in yesterday's mission. That's Poddy, Amy, Kelly. They're safe. Before they move on, this is the point where Christine, who's now convinced herself, absolutely convinced herself Ben is a traitor. She's giving him daggers. She even makes this cutthroat gesture to him. I thought, gee, calm down, Christine. Like, it's not that serious.
She's
Next,
getting her
next,
last licks in here.
yeah, yeah. Question four or clue four is the player who's safe spoke first at last night's round table. They realise that's Joe, which means that Faye, Ben, and Christine are the three who are left. And now Christine even thinks Faye's a traitor. She's saying she couldn't even look at me. Really, it's just because well, Faye looks pretty upset herself.
Hmm.
So Christine reckons she's potentially standing here right next to two traitors and they've double crossed her. They move on and return back to the castle. Siobhan does this thing that she's done in an episode before. She waves magically, and the door opens, and in they go. Well, she goes in with these final three players. Everybody else has to wait a little while until they obviously, set up the coffins and everything. Not that we see that. And it, I know I've seen this before in other versions of the show, but it is. Yeah, it's quite morbid, it's
Yes.
pretty horrible, them like lying in these coffins about to, and they're obviously told like don't speak from here on, like don't be tempted to start shouting things out. Lie there, be silent, that this is the end for one of you.
Yeah, and it really is kind of torturing these people, you know? I mean, it's not simply being called to, by the producer to get a letter. It's lying there for however long while people are called up and throw roses in and you don't know if your game is about to end and
Yeah.
so it is a little bit of psychological torture for all three of them.
Yeah. And they could always end up with some player who really is really claustrophobic and freaks out about this. I mean, Faye says later, she was really panicking, she couldn't
Hmm.
handle it. So, producers have got to deal with that. They might have to really talk someone down and get them mentally ready for this. So the fake mourners file in and they're shaking hands with the players and crying, and Poddy's really going methods. He's actually shaking the hand and
Yeah,
saying, yes, thank you for coming. And the mourners help themselves to some snacks as well. Why not? Uh, Siobhan,
that was their payment for the day.
yeah. Yeah. They've not been fed all day, so they take their chance on camera to do it. Siobhan asks the safe players to place a black rose in the coffin of the player they believe has been murdered. And it's funny because I I forgot, oh, this is the actual mission to help win money. I
Right.
kind of just thought they're just doing it for the sake of it. I forgot there really was a purpose to this bit.
Well, I thought that they were gaining money along the way, and I had just missed it. Like, oh,
Yeah.
every right answer gets you, a
Yeah.
certain amount of money. But it would no, this was all or nothing.
Yeah. And turns out it's
Nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was trying to think, all right, if I was one of these safe players, a faithful, how do you guess where you put I guess you pick the player you think is least likely to be a traitor, or the player that you think you've got a really good reason for thinking the traitors would want to kill them off.
Yeah, like there's no way anyone should have picked Faye for the same reason that Faye said in the morning, I know I'm safe because there's suspicion on me.
Right.
Um,
And funnily enough, Poddy is the only one who puts a rose in phase, so
oh,
maybe
I thought there
that
was another
tells
one
us
in there
something.
when he threw it in, but
You're well, you're right. Guess who it was? It's Wilkin, who has no idea
oh,
what's going
see,
on.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, if you think that Ben is a traitor, you obviously don't throw it in on Ben.
yeah,
If
yeah,
but if you think Ben is a faithful who was causing a lot of ruckus and is likely to get murdered and quite honestly should have been murdered, then you throw it in on Ben.
yeah. And most of them do. Oi
Right.
and Nick, Vanessa, Amy, Kelly, all throw their flowers into Ben's coffin. And again, I was reminded Poddy was the last one to pick, and we're reminded he actually still doesn't know who it is. He just has to watch Nick, and he realizes, well, Nick put it in Ben's, so it's obviously not Ben because Nick wouldn't do something that obvious. So he kind of knows it's one of the other two, and I guess they suggested Christine last night, so he realizes, okay, it's Christine.
Yeah.
So he doesn't put it in her, he puts it in Faye's coffin because he doesn't want to stand out.
Hmm.
Basically, they don't say it, but Poddy and Nick are sacrificing winning money for the sake of appearing like they're clueless and they don't really know who's going to
I
be
mean, the
murdered.
thing is, so many people put it in Ben's anyway. I don't remember what the
Yeah,
final tally was, but I don't
probably
think it
wouldn't
would
have
have mattered.
mattered. Yeah, yeah. So Siobhan slowly builds up, ratcheting up the tension, and reveals the truth that the player who's been murdered is Christine. and a lot of them are really shocked, and it's pretty horrible. Christine is really upset. She's crying. These two guys bring in the lid. They put it on top. Yeah, it's a tough watch. And of course, again, Christine, she's not allowed to say anything. She's
Hmm.
not got the chance to go, I think it's Ben.
She got
Know,
all her words out beforehand.
yeah,
She.
yeah. And so the mission is done. We are back in the castle to sort of debrief and come down a bit. We see Nick in his interview saying, yeah, he feels bad about it, but hey, he's playing the game. He had to do what he had to do. Faye's hysterically crying, saying, "Oh, it's such a horrible way to go." And she knows Christine's alive, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know what she
Nope.
means. A horrible way
Nope.
to go
That's
from the
it.
game, but
Nope. That's
it's
it.
okay, Faye.
They put the cover on the casket and that was it. She's gone.
They're out in the cemetery now.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Ben is telling the group he totally believes Faye's reaction. He's like, "There's no way she's acting. She's genuinely upset here. I cannot believe
Hmm.
that's a traitor putting this on." And he even says throughout the mission as well, she was so worried, she was so stressed and upset. She couldn't be acting that. He comes to Nick. He tells Nick, look, I'm going to be honest. I have to be suspicious of you. Like, I'm going to have to start thinking about you. And they sit to talk about it. Oyen appears briefly. And what I thought was not important, but actually kind of is, she said, wait a minute, Ben. What? You just said that you think Faye's definitely faithful. Why? Why do you think that? And again, he's like, well, the way she's crying, come on. But Oyen's like, well, that doesn't mean anything. That maybe she's just guilty. And that comes up again
Yes.
later. Maybe Faye just feels guilty. Nick and Ben finally talk alone. And Nick sort of masterfully convinces Ben, look, if I was a traitor, who would I have gotten rid of immediately? It would be you because I'm so close to you. I would do that. And he even gets Ben to admit, yeah, I would have done the same thing. You're right.
Yeah.
So he's got Ben, wrapped around his finger. He's got Ben in his pocket. Uh, Back in the other room with Oyen, Vanessa, and Joe, they're still talking about Faye. Yep, they don't assume that her tears are necessarily the tears of someone innocent. And Joe outright says she's going to vote for Faye tonight. And there's, but well, again, we switch back to the other room. Nick trying to convince Ben Faye is maybe Faye's going to get a lot of votes tonight. Ben, you're going to have to make your mind up, which is weird because actually, in the end, uh, I thought Faye was going to be in a lot more trouble than she was. It just
Right.
goes a completely different way. And it's really time to head towards the round table at this point. Coming in, we've got our various little confessionals. We've got Poddy saying he's worried about how Nick's so close to Ben, and he says something like, "I hope Ben goes." I don't know whether he means in banishment or murder. I'm assuming he means murder. Like, I hope we're going to have to kill him off soon. And he says though that he would take Nick to the end. He just doesn't sure if Nick would do the same for him.
Yeah.
And I don't know if now's the time to talk about it or at the end. I don't know why Poddy thinks Nick is going to stick it out with him. And again, maybe we're going to talk about why Nick wasn't the right choice for Poddy.
Yeah, we can. I guess we could talk about that at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Siobhan arrives and reminds them they didn't win anything in the mission today, so the prize fund is still 26,900. Uh, Discussion begins. Amy starts us off. She comes for Vanessa and keeps apologizing all the time. Uh, and even Vanessa's like, stop saying sorry. You can just accuse me. It's fine.
Well, didn't she say at
It-
one point, whether it was here or somewhere else, she said something like, "If I were a traitor, I'd kill you just for saying sorry all the time."
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Amy claims that way back in the beginning, Vanessa had Poddy on her radar, but switched to voting for Eamon. And Amy's like, I don't understand why you switched from Poddy. I think you just saw maybe your fellow traitors doing that.
Hmm.
She doesn't quite say it like that, but I think that's what she's implying. And Vanessa's like, no, no, I'm still on the Poddy train. And she even says that's who I'm going to vote for tonight. She puts it right out there. Kelly also targets Vanessa. She says she reckons um, it's all a bit complicated and kind of trivial. She says, Vanessa, recently you really eloquently laid out your thoughts about why Christine or Faye might be traitors. And so actually, I think that was a bluff. And you killed Christine and you were trying to throw us off by pretending you thought she was a traitor, that sort of thing. Jo even comes in. I was quite surprised. She sort of targets Vanessa as well. She
Hmm.
claims that Oyen and Vanessa had been talking loads about Faye earlier. So she doesn't understand now why Vanessa's saying she's going to vote Poddy. This doesn't add up for her. And Vanessa just keeps refuting that. She's like, no, I've always been going for Poddy tonight. I've said it all along. She says, yeah, I talked about Faye, but I'm not as sure about Faye as I am about Poddy. So that's all I can say about that. Faye comes in, says she doesn't, she's got this line of reasoning that annoys me personally. She says, Joe, you're the only remaining player alive from death row. I find that really suspicious. And I'm sure we've talked about this on the podcast before. This doesn't mean anything. Like that to me is not. And I get you're clutching at straws, but surely there are better things to go on than you were one of the people on death row, and everyone else is gone. So you're a traitor who's left behind. Like they still have no idea if a traitor put themselves on death
I
row.
mean, I think there's, it's still working off of like, the first time it came up, the traders were like, haha, we'll outsmart them and put one of us here and they won't suspect us. And they
Mhm.
didn't. And then the next time it happened, people, in the various seasons all around the world started figuring it out. And so they thought, aha, they will, and we'll get one of them. And that seems to be what she's still working on, even though we've now moved to the third level of the traders saying, nope, they figured out that we usually put a trader on here, so we're going to stop doing that now.
Yeah, yeah.
And so she's like
A
an
cycle behind.
iteration back. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, Joe goes on to explain how it would be a great move for a traitor to. Joe's targeting Faye, and she's saying, actually, the way that you saved Christine in that mission would be a great traitor move because everybody thinks you've saved Christine, you're really close to her. And then you kill her off in the next episode, so nobody would suspect you of being responsible for that. And again, maybe you were crying because you were guilty about it. That explains your tears. Oh, Ian backs this up. Yeah, Faye, maybe you felt guilty. And Faye's, quite pissed off about that. She's like, no, 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 I was having a meltdown. I
Yeah.
if you think I was faking that, fine. But yeah, I think she's quite annoyed at these accusations. And at this moment I thought, man, I've been saying all this to Ian's my like number one detective. She's so great at figuring things out. And she's slipping a little bit here. She's veering wrongly for now. Ben comes in and he starts working his way through the three people he's closest to, and also does this slightly annoying thing again that you and I have talked about on the podcast. So he starts with Nick. He goes, "Well, I'm really close to Nick, but hey, me and Nick had this chat earlier, and actually Nick he made it really clear that if he was a traitor, he would have killed me long before now. And then I'm really close to Faye, but there's no way she faked that crying today. There was no way she was pretending to be that upset. So, Vanessa, that leaves me with you." So
Yeah.
it's like, well, as if that's proof. He's like, maybe you're a traitor and you've kept me here. And it's this line of reasoning that we see a lot. That, like we saw it from Nick earlier on this season when he actually was a faithful. When players it's sort of a bit egocentric, where they think there
Right.
must be a reason why I'm still here in the game. So it must be someone I'm close to that's a traitor and keeping him here. And you think, well, Ben, there are like nine other people here, and someone's got to can't all be murdered. So it doesn't mean you've deliberately actively been kept around by someone. Maybe that's just the way the chips have fallen. Like maybe
That's
your turn's coming tonight. So
That's what they need, a new twist, the firing squad. They get to murder like four people all at once.
yeah. Hey,
That'll cut the numbers down.
yeah. I mean, they're gonna, yeah. Every season, they're gonna try and think of new
Yeah.
ways to switch it up. We're gonna see some wild mechanics coming into it at some point. So, yeah. I just thought I don't know why. I thought it was a strange route for Ben to go down.
Well,
Uh,
then
he,
Ben said something like he's 50-50 on Vanessa. And if it's not
or
Vanessa, it's Poddy.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Poddy's like, what? What? Why, if you're 50-50 on her, what does that have to do with me?
Yeah,
Like there's nothing, there's no connection here.
yeah,
Um, and then he also brings up that he saw Ben react oddly last time and look over at Nick. So
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
Nick didn't refuse recruitment and those two are working together.
Right, right.
And this sets off a whole line of questions for me because you mentioned that coming in, Poddy was like, well, I really want to go to the end with Nick.
Yeah,
And so I'm like, well, why, why is he bringing up Nick? He
right.
must have found out that Nick was trying to stab him in the back. Someone must have told him, and he jumped on it.
Yeah,
And then, as if hearing my question, Nick says, well, Poddy, you've kept me in the game, but you must have heard that I was coming for you, and that's why you're coming for me now. And I'm like,
yeah.
yes. And Poddy goes around the table being like, did anyone tell me? No, 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 no. So I'm back to being confused again.
I I had the same thought. I made a note here when Poddy sort of attacks Nick. I wrote, what happened to working with Nick until the
Yeah.
end? I wondered if because Ben was saying to Poddy, I'm going to vote for you. Yeah, I'm 50-50 with you, Vanessa. And Poddy's going, hey, well, that's not fair. And Nick's, sorry, Ben's only real justification is, well, I've voted for you once before, so I'm just going to do that again. Like if I was suspicious of you, then it's not a great reason, but um, so I wondered if because Poddy realized, well, Ben's going to vote for me. He's literally just said it. Nick's probably going to do the same as him. I think he just thinks Nick's closer to him than he is to me. So I think he just puts two and two together and think like if Ben's that confident to say that, he's probably been talking about it with Nick. So Nick's probably going to do. So I think he's just anticipating
I,
what Nick's
I
going
mean,
to do.
you're giving him credit for a lot of logical thinking that I do not believe he has demonstrated to this point. But
No, but as Nick or Ben point out in a minute, they have Nick and Ben have, I think, always voted the exact same way. So I
yeah,
just wondered if Poddy
well, that,
noticed,
yeah,
and they sit together, so maybe just thought, oh, you two are gonna
yeah,
do the same thing again. I'm not sure.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, it becomes clear that Nick and Poddy they are just going to go head to head, and they're going to try and get one another out. And yeah, Ben says, yeah, if wait a minute, if Nick and I were traitors together, surely we wouldn't be so dumb as to always vote the same way. That would be way too obvious. And we've been like the traitor hunters. We've been so vocally trying to get the traitor. Sure, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and that's when
Uh,
I wanted someone to jump in and say, time out, time out. You literally tried to save Caitlyn
yeah, yeah,
and
exactly.
not vote out a traitor. So don't call yourself a traitor hunter
Yeah,
when
that's
you
right.
purposely tried to not get out a traitor.
Yeah, yeah.
But nobody
I
says it as
guess
far as we saw.
no, yeah, they've forgotten.
Yeah.
Poddy brings up the roses in the coffins, and he's sort of tackling Ben on. 'Cause I think Ben was sort of theorizing like about who put what in what coffin, and Poddy's just like, "How are you so confident about this?" And Ben's like, I'm just saying what I think. I don't know. It's everything I say is just thoughts." Oyen then comes in and she revisits this point from several round tables ago. So she
Yes.
starts to redeem herself in my mind, and she goes, "Hey guys, I told you all a while back that maybe Poddy, Eamon, and Caitlin were three traitors fighting amongst themselves." And she brings up, and I don't think she brought this up before, but I noticed it at the time. She brings up Poddy's strange response when she first accused him of that. When Poddy she said, Poddy, I think you and Caitlin and Eamon might be traitors. And Poddy went, you could be absolutely right or you could be absolutely wrong. And I thought that was a
Yeah.
terrible defense. So Oyen is saying, yeah, that was really an odd thing to say. Like, if you were faithful, why wouldn't you have just flat out denied it? And she also points out something that I thought no one had noticed, that those
Mm-hmm.
OG traitors, had this hushed conversation under the stairs, and it was really strange. So, yeah, at the time, I was going mad. I thought it was on the podcast. I was saying, "Oh my God, why were the three of them so obvious together?" So I guess other people, or at least Oyen. did spot
Well,
that and
I
think
don't
something
know if
of it.
she spotted it. It came up in conversation. Like Potty literally talked about it
Yeah,
at a
yeah, yeah.
round table.
Well,
Like,
I
oh,
guess,
they pulled me in to try to convince me to do it this way.
yeah.
So it was at least a topic of discussion. And
Hmm.
you know, we at the time, I guess it was episode 6, kind of wondered, where has this idea gone? Have they all forgotten about it? But no,
Yeah,
nope, it came back. It's
yeah.
been just simmering in the background. And I, yeah, but I mean, what Plotty should have said was, come on, how dumb would the traders have to be for all three of them to get together in plain sight like that? It would be ridiculous. No one would ever do that.
Exactly. Uh, there's not much more before the vote. I've got a note that Oyen finishes by reminding them of the last thing Eamon did. She says, "Well, before Eamon went, he voted for Poddy, and he said that Poddy was really bad at this game. Was Eamon trying to tell us something?"
Yeah, he's
I,
trying to
I
tell you that Plotty's really bad at this game.
Hardy also finishes by saying, one last sort of line of defense. He talks to the woman and he's saying, "Girls, watch out, watch out." It's time for the vote, and I wasn't sure where it was going, but I thought Poddy was probably about to face his end. Oyen begins and votes for Poddy. Joe and Kelly go for Vanessa, and Poddy votes for Nick, which was a bit wild. Like I understand it follows on from his actions at the round table, but I thought, Paddy, do you really think anyone else is going to vote for Nick right now? Like, this is if you're going to save yourself, vote for Vanessa. Like,
Yeah,
isn't that
there was
where some
there
people are
was
going to go?
yeah, the same thing that I was thinking was, I mean, it turns out it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah,
But if one vote had gone a different way, it would have mattered.
it could have been it would have led to a tie, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so, well, unless a Poddy vote switched to Vanessa, then it would have
yeah,
been, you know, um, but yes, if like Joanna, I think Joanna cast some weird vote. Um, but yeah, it's so bad. We've talked about this before. If it's down to you and someone else, I don't care who that someone else is, you vote for them.
yeah. And we've
It's
even
it's
seen,
self-defense.
yeah, and I think we've seen players openly admit I'm voting for this person because I'm trying to save myself. Like I don't
Yeah.
really think it's you, but I have to stay in the game.
Yeah.
Well,
And so yeah, that
I
was just
guess
that
he
was kind of the cap to his whole game of just not thinking things through.
yeah, I think either he realized it was inevitable and it didn't matter what he did, or he
But it
didn't
wasn't
realize how
that.
many people were going to vote for
Yeah.
him. And he
It's got to
thought,
be. Yeah.
I don't think he thought other people were going to vote for Nick necessarily, but I think he thought it would be a big mix and actually
Hmm.
Vanessa was going to go. So he's going to vote for Nick now, and then next week or tomorrow he can stick with his story that he doesn't trust Nick now. But yeah, I think he just doesn't realize what's about to happen at all. Uh, Amy goes Vanessa, Nick votes for Poddy, Wilkin votes for Joe, which seems a little bit red. uh, I think Wilkin just goes like this, then lands on someone. At some point, it ends up being three each between Poddy and Vanessa, and then Vanessa goes Poddy, Ben votes for Poddy. So Poddy has fallen, the Irish hero, the last remaining OG trait. I mean, I am still incredibly impressed. He made it to episode 9. Like, I never thought he would get this far.
No.
So, you know,
I mean,
it's
it's mostly because his fellow traders self-destructed worse than he did.
yes, yes. But
It's
I
like,
can't claim he's the worst traitor ever or anything like that.
yeah,
He's gotten away with some things at some points.
yeah,
So it's time for his speech, and I thought surely he's going to reveal the big secret,
right.
right? The second biggest secret, I should say. Hoddy says, "There's a lot I'd like to say. I'm on my way home to my wife, my four beautiful children, my, I think, nine grandchildren. I am looking forward to seeing them all." And then he says, "You mightn't know my family. but you've met one of them. My son, Andrew, and I'm a traitor.
Yeah.
Woo! And they're going nuts for more than one reason. They're like, wow, we got him. And also what? Andrew, Andrew. So it's a great moment. And of course, across the episodes, a few players have been, I think,
Hmm.
half jokingly theorizing that there's a secret family
Yes.
relationship. So now that it's blown their minds, oh my goodness. I wonder if anyone guessed it. Probably not.
Oh,
Uh,
by the way, this was what one thing I thought of when he was having that conversation with Joanna and
yeah.
talking about their families and stuff. I was like, are we going to get like a super belated reveal that Joanna is also his daughter or something, that we haven't known about this whole time?
Yeah, Andrew's wife.
Yeah.
That would have been, yeah, that would have been
Yeah.
great. Um, maybe again, maybe in a future series
Yeah.
we'll get a double family reveal. So Siobhan congratulates them on catching another traitor, and already we know what's coming. We're gonna have to get another blackmail. Like, so we head off. We get a little bit of debriefing. Nick's pretty pleased with himself, as is Vanessa. Meanwhile, we've got Joe telling Faye and Nick that she doesn't trust Vanessa and Oyen now because of how they switched to Poddy at the round table when it
Yeah.
seemed like they were going to go for Faye earlier.
Again, this just shows she has no idea how to play the game. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but if you're against alliances and you don't understand exactly what we were talking about, that there's no point in casting a vote that won't matter,
yeah,
you, you got to learn the game.
yeah. Yeah, she's thinking to sort of emotionally rather than
Yeah.
strategically, which usually doesn't get you far.
No.
Sometimes you end up winning that way by pure accident, but um,
Well,
which
that
we've
would
seen a
never
few times.
happen like in the US or anything.
No.
No.
Nick is briefly talking to Ben and he's saying, hey, maybe someone's protecting you. Maybe that's who the last traitor is. And perfect timing and sort of perfectly summing up Faye. We have her in an interview saying that she trusts Nick more than anyone. She even
Hmm.
comes up to him and says like, she says something about trusting him 100% or whatever. Um, and she's like, yeah, he's absolutely a faithful. He's been out for the traitors from day one. He's always on the mark. Cut to Nick alone in the library, giving a little celebration glance to the camera, perfectly timed. So, I just think Faye is almost always wrong, and
Yeah.
I just don't think she's ever really got a clue. But very nice, I'm sure. We head to the dungeon, and I'm wondering, is that, a couple of episodes back, I was like, this is a record, three banishments in a row. And of course, some of our listeners reminded me on YouTube, no, no, Matthew, you've seen this happen before. But is this a record? Three blackmails in one series? And we're not even in the last quarter. Like, it just seems,
I certainly don't remember any like this. I mean, maybe in some of the non-English speaking
yeah,
ones, but
yeah. This
I,
feels really rare and
I can't
a
remember
unique set
more
of
than one
circumstances.
blackmail in a season.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like, again, someone will now, of course, remind me,
Well,
Matthew,
because
Matthew,
I
you've
mean, the
forgotten.
combination of what you need is you need to start with only three traders, really.
Yeah,
You need to have a refusal or a non-recruitment. And then you need to have this bing, 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 in
yeah,
order to get to this point.
yeah,
So I mean, that's just a rare situation.
yeah. Strange. Siobhan and Nick have their little chat. Nick talks about, Poddy and I, we were going to go for one another. This is the way it had to be. And Nick now has to choose his next recruit. Of course, as always, it's a blackmail. If they reject, they'll be murdered. And we really finish with him musing on Ben. And he's saying,
Hmm.
well, Ben might feel like the obvious choice. He's my bestie in this. Uh, and he has mentioned me as a suspect. So maybe that's the way I have to go. He makes his decision. We don't know who he's chosen. And the episode ends. So, I I think we're being thrown a little bit here. I'm jumping straight to my prediction. I don't
Yeah.
think he is going to recruit Ben.
Think he's going to
I think
murder
he's
Ben?
gonna. I think. Sorry.
You think he's going to murder Ben?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he's got the chance.
I think he's going to recruit Faye and murder Ben, is what I think he's going to do.
Yeah, yeah,
Because if he recruits Ben, Ben is almost too smart. Why would you want to recruit a smart traitor? I
yeah,
mean, look what happened to Potty. Um, you know, so I think that yes, we're trying to be led down the garden path that he's going to recruit Ben, but actually he's going to murder Ben. And then what he says the next day when people say it's Ben, and he said, "See, I said yesterday that." If I were a traitor, I would murder Ben, and now someone's trying to frame me by using
yeah,
my own words against me. Because obviously, I wouldn't do something that dumb.
yeah. I think so. And it's it's interesting. You think he's going to recruit Faye, which, and if he does, might she we see the same thing again? Is she going to get banished straight away? Is Nick going to have to blackmail again for like a fourth one in the season? Is that where you see this going?
Uh, Maybe. I don't know. They've had this on Faye for so long.
Hmm.
Um, I guess it's possible it stays. I mean, like we saw it come back to Potty again. So I just think there was no reason to mention Faye at the end there if nothing happens with her.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and yeah, if he does pick her and she does get banished, then it's just more confusion and more people not looking at him.
yeah. Uh, I mean, I've just been saying that I think Faye gets things wrong all the time. There is the chance that he blackmails her. She immediately realizes why he's doing it, that he's going to try and get rid of her. Does she somehow flip things and get people turning? I don't know how she would ever pull that off. I don't know who's going to recruit. And I threw out this wild guess last time. Actually, funnily enough, my wild guess about who Poddy would recruit was Faye, and
Yeah.
I was wrong. I wonder if Nick does something like go for someone like Kelly, like some really quiet player that no one is ever gonna
Or
suspect.
Joanna.
But
Maybe
then,
that's
oh,
why we've been hearing that Joanna has no allies because he
yeah,
decides to do that. So,
yeah, or maybe he recruits Wilkin. And uh, I really don't know. I don't know where this is going, but I do think he's gonna do the smart thing and get rid of Ben
mhm.
by murdering him, surely. Uh, I'm now jumping backwards a bit, but because I said I would come back to this, was Nick a terrible choice of
Yes,
recruitment then for Poddy? And if
yes.
so, who should he have chosen?
Anyone but Nick and Ben. That would have been a good start.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
should have murdered Nick. It was. I don't know why he thought Nick would be loyal to him when Nick had his own little group already. Other people were
yeah,
talking about Nick and Ben and Vanessa working together. He
yeah.
should have recruited someone like Joanna, who, as she said, didn't have any allies of her own, and then murder Nick, who was fully
Mm.
expecting to be murdered.
Yeah.
I Potty, nice guy, great father, great grandfather, I'm sure. Terrible strategist.
Yeah, I think I don't I'm trying to justify what Poddy did. I think
There's no
he
justification.
I think he got on well with Nick.
Mm-hmm.
They were sort of buddies. Uh even though Nick kind of thought Poddy could be a traitor. And I wonder if he just thought, hey, I'll recruit Nick, and me and him are going to have so much fun, and no one's going to suspect him. So we're going to be a great team and ride it out. Like, just very surface level. Like, Nick will have my back, and he'll have a great time being a traitor with me. But, uh, yeah, I think it was not a smart move.
No.
And again, maybe. maybe Poddy was always going to go. Maybe it kind of actually didn't matter because whoever he recruited, eyes were going to come back to Poddy at some point soon anyway. So
Probably. I mean, can you imagine getting to the end with him and saying, "Sure, I'll trust Potty at the end after everything
after
else."
everything, yeah, yeah,
But I mean, murder Nick and just it could be anyone who wanted Nick murdered.
right, right.
So yeah, all the OG traitors gone,
Go on.
which
Yes.
not surprising because they were all so bad.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Potty even showed it by voting the wrong way on the way out. But
Right.
seriously, what other season have we had all the traitors getting together in public to discuss? No, they avoid each other like the plague normally.
Yeah, I think there have been a lot of firsts in this
Yeah.
season compared to the others that I've watched. Do you have any other final thoughts on this episode as the season as a whole, where we're going next?
Well, where we're going next is somewhere without you. So
Yes. Sadly, I'm not going to be on my own podcast now. I've mentioned this before. I'm heading off on holiday. Damn
we're,
you,
we're,
Traitors Ireland.
we're
Damn you,
banishing
RTE.
me and Magica are forming an alliance and banishing Matthew.
Yeah, yeah. And this maybe is a good time then to mention that normally we ask for listener questions and comments, and we still want those, but you may be better sending them to David rather than me because I probably will see them, but David is going to be taking the reins on the podcast. So, in fact, David, why don't you tell us what's the best way for people to find you online? How can they send you these questions and thoughts?
Well, I am, of course, all over social media. And so the best way, if you're on Blue Sky, is to find me on Blue Sky at David Bloomberg. I'm also on Instagram. I mean, to send messages, at David Bloomberg TV. I'm on TikTok and YouTube is at David Bloomberg TV as well. It's just not so easy to send direct messages, especially on YouTube. I'm not sure you even can. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I don't
yes,
think so.
yeah, so yes, any questions there? Um, if you want to do a voicemail, well, that you can still do the normal way, which Matthew will describe because I never remember. But yeah, I will be all over the place. I have other, podcasts coming out as well, which have nothing to do with contacting me, just other things we've been doing. We did a Survivor 49 preview. I have a 10th anniversary podcast coming up this weekend for my Why Blank Lost podcasts, and and then we'll be doing, of course, also the regular Big Brother podcast and starting Survivor next week, right after we do three episodes of the Traitors Ireland.
Yes.
So yeah, there's a lot going on, and you can find me in all those places.
Perfect. And even though I won't be around, I mean, I'll be in Europe. I'm not like going to space or anything. I will have the internet. You should definitely still follow the podcast on social media. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the Trader Podcast. And yeah, you can leave comments in those places too. You can email me. I will still receive it and I can send it on to David or Magica at the tradarpodcast at gmail.com. Again, you can leave a voice message at memo.fm/ the tradar podcast and I can send it David's way. I've also mentioned a couple of times now there is merch for the podcast. So there is a Redbubble shop for various wonderful and wild things that you might want to have with the Trader logo. When I'm back on the podcast, I will model the merch that because I bought some myself. I think it's cool, so I will show it off on the pod. Next time I'll be with you is to preview Celebrity Traitors UK. Magica and I
Mm.
are going to run through the cast, talk about who they are, speculate about who may be good at what in the show, who may be, effective in particular roles. So that should be good fun. I should also say, because this is my last time in the podcast for a while, that I always talk about the podcast social media, but you could also add me personally. I'm at Matthew J. Keeley on Instagram and TikTok, although I rarely use TikTok, so that's probably a bit useless. But Instagram is the place I mainly am. And I have mentioned this way back on the podcast, but now it's a bit more pressing. I say at the start of every episode, I'm a writer, and I have a poetry collection being published very soon by a great press called Drunk Muse Press. The poetry collection is about to come out, and I'm hosting a couple of book launch events, one in Scotland on the 18th of October, one in London on the 25th of October. So I'll be posting details about those events and about the book and where you can find it on my social media. So if you're interested in poetry, you might want to follow me on there at Matthew J. Keeley.
So that's right around the time the Canadian Traitors starts also.
Yes. October is, I thought September was bad. October, celebrity UK traitors, Canadian traitors. I'm launching a book. It's all happening at once. And also have to go off to Scotland to promote the book at the same time. And it's going to be wild. But hey, it'll be fun and well worth it, I'm sure. Uh, David, this is me. I'm handing over to you now. The podcast is yours. But so I'll say goodbye, and David, you can sign us off.
All right. Well, yeah, we will take good care of the podcast in your
I just sort of
absence.
threw that on you there. So
Yeah,
do what you
I was
want. Like
waiting. You
whatever
said
you
I'll
want.
say goodbye, and I'm like, okay,
Oh,
say
that was
goodbye.
me. I've said it now.
Yeah,
Bye.
yeah, okay. So yes, we will. While Matthew's away, the traitors will play. So remember, everyone, to wish Matthew a good trip and stay traitorous.